to my wild ones. Why don't you get yourself a cup of tea and sit down with me? Hi, Jasper's gonna join us. This is gonna be our first installment of Tea with Cypris, and this is where I get a chance to talk with you over a nice hot steaming cup of tea, or coffee if that's what you prefer. I'm having tea myself. I think I've got some Earl Grey in here right now, and we can sit down and talk about things that matter, things that don't matter, things that make the cosmos go around, or things that make ourselves go around, all the little itty bitty things inside of us, or all the grand, just basically this is a chance to have a little chat. And did you get your cup of tea? If you want one, go ahead and pause and go get your cup of tea and come back. It's okay, I'll wait. Okay, so whatever you're drinking, here's to that. And what I would like to talk about today is hope, or rather hopelessness. And the reason that this has been on the forefront of my mind is because I happened to see a snippet of a recent talk by the Dalai Lama, and he was emphasizing the need for hope. And I have a bit of a different perspective on the concept of hope. The party line is that we must maintain hope. That all is not lost as long as we still have a sliver of hope. And then what happens if we lose that hope? If we lose hope, we're just completely depressed and all is lost, and we might go throw ourselves off a bridge if we lose hope, right? Because all is lost if we lose hope. But really? Really, does everything depend on hope? If you lose hope, you lose everything else? And I don't think so. And the reason I have strong feelings about this is because I myself literally lost the ability to hope. The hope faith function, I burned it out. It's gone. It was about 6 years ago. I was going through a long period of intense mourning. Not for anything specific, really, just life is not the things that they tell you it is. Life is not what you expect it to be. Life is a lot harder and a lot meaner and crueler and abstract than the party line that you're given by your parents, your church, your school, your culture, television. And life is not always what you make it, no matter how hard you work. So I had just a lot of things to let go of, and I had been in this process of mourning everything for 6 years, and not that everything was a cakewalk before then either, but I had gotten to the point where the cognitive dissonance between reality and all the things I hoped for, all the things that I expected out of life, nothing super huge or specific, just life should be better, right? You should be able to, you get a foothold and work and develop a career and get paid a living wage, and people will like you if you're a nice person, and all of those lies. There was just such a huge gulf between reality and expectation, and my faith option, faith function programming was pretty hardcore. I was taught to have unwavering faith. I was raised to be a very faithful person, and never let go of hope. And so it wasn't that I had a deficit of these qualities, it was that I would not let them go. I followed that rhetoric that you can't lose hope, and I held on to my hope with a passionate intensity that bordered on insanity. And in fact, I think if hope and faith had not given way, sanity would have had to. Because you can only hold on to things that are ridiculous for so long. Either hope dies or your grasp of reality dies. And I'm not saying that my grasp of reality is completely completely where we'd all like it to be, but in this case it was my hope that died, not my grip on reality. I had to accept reality. And so the thing that happened, it was weird. I basically lost it overnight. I had been in a position where my hope and my faith were really strained, and I went to bed one night. It was a very normal night. I went to bed, cried myself to sleep, which I was doing probably about 40% of the time at this point in my life. Not because I was clinically depressed, although I probably could have been diagnosed. I think the mourning, I still think it was just this long period of mourning, and there was so much to process, and so much bitterness, and so much to be sad about, that sometimes you just, crying is a way to get that stuff out of you. You can't process it without letting it out. So I fell asleep, and the next morning I woke up with the strangest and most distinct sense that I was physically missing something inside of my ribcage. Like literally I could feel the gap, the space that was left behind. And it was really weird. And I was a little scared because what was wrong? And I didn't know, but it didn't hurt because I was in some kind of shock or numbness, and it was a very surreal experience, like getting up and going through my day, and all the while being very aware that I wasn't feeling anything. I wasn't sad, I wasn't frustrated, I wasn't in physical pain from whatever I had lost. And I was able to function just fine. And it took me about 3 days. I was coasting along like this. Somewhere in that 3 days, I realized that whatever it was that allows us to hope, to have faith, it was so strained and so overtaxed that it wasn't being replenished, and it literally is a little strong since we're talking about things that aren't actual physical organs, but it necroted and fell off, or fell out, or I don't know. The metaphor starts breaking down when I try to get too physical, because obviously it's not a physical part of the body, but I had lost my ability to hope, to have faith. And that really scared me, because I've been on this planet too, and I've grown up with that rhetoric that we must hold on to hope. But do we? Do we really need hope? I discovered in the aftermath of losing that function, not knowing whether it would grow back or not, and it hasn't. After 6 years, it has not grown back. It was a fatal loss. But I realized that I was looking at life in a way that was way less stressful, because I had lost all expectation of things going the way I thought they should. I still had my desire. I still wanted what I wanted and needed what I needed. But I had no expectation that I would have my needs met. Or that anything that I might otherwise hope for would happen. Instead, I was left with this sort of almost scientific, by comparison, this scientific perspective that I had enough knowledge and intelligence to sort of weigh probabilities and get a sense of how likely anything was to happen, and to be able to see that as I go on, at any given time, some positive things will happen, mostly negative things will happen. Most of them won't be so negative or bad that I can't handle them or get through them, and sometimes it'll just be really crappy. And that's just how it is. No expectation for anything else. I can still work for what I desire. I can still work for the things that I want, but I move forward with the expectation that it's not up to me, that most of life is really sucky, and that's just what it is. And it sounds depressing, but it's being realistic. And the reality is that you cannot control all the things. And it doesn't matter sometimes how hard you work or how desperately you hope for something. What's going to happen is what ends up going to happening. That didn't make any sense. But, so I feel like where I've come to with this is in a sense kind of comparable to Buddhism, but instead of letting go of my desire, instead of losing that ache of what I desire, I still desire everything that I desire. I keep using the word desire. But I haven't lost my yearning for things in life, for success, for friendship, for, health, well-being, and all of that. But I have lost my expectation that I will get those things. I am not in a constant state of tension and anxiety because life isn't living up to what it's supposed to do and what it's supposed to be. And that has been a huge and key thing for me to get it to this place. And maybe you have different words for what I'm talking about here. This is how I have processed what happened to me. What I've learned is that we can do everything that we can do to try to get what we want, and along the way we're not going to get most of it. But here's the thing. We can, as we go on, expect with a high probability that lots of things are going to happen that we didn't expect. And yeah, a lot of them are going to be crappy, but there's also a lot of them that are going to be positives. It's not stuff we were going for directly. It's not stuff we were hoping for. Sometimes it's not stuff we even knew existed, but then it comes out of nowhere. And sometimes, not very often, it's way better than anything we were looking for. So yeah, sometimes I have to remember to just give up in a sense. Not to stop trying, and not to stop working, and not to stop breathing and doing all the things, but we can't be invested so much in outcomes that we don't explore along the way. I don't know if that's helpful. And am I perfect at this new way of traversing the world? Oh no. No, not by a long shot. And it's not a cure-all for being down. There are times where things are just so hard that I can't function, and there are times where things are fine and I still can't function. Life is weird that way. But the thing about not expecting what you want and not expecting to get what you need, because let's face it, we're not going to get what we need all the time. Even if our fundamental needs are being met, which mine have not always been met. Sometimes you can't put food on the table, right? Even if those basic fundamental needs are being met, everything that you need, you're not going to get. There's emotional needs, there's social needs, there's all these. We're very complicated beings, right? And you're not going to get what you need most of the time. And as we go through this life, we get more and more and more damaged. And that's kind of how it goes. You can't avoid the damage. It's part of the process. It's part of how this whole thing is set up for some reason that feels inexplicable when you're in the middle of it. So we're just going to take hits along the way. Hopefully not so many that it profoundly inhibits our ability to keep going. But the thing is, with all of that, losing the expectation that things are going to go my way means that every little moment of joy, every little serendipitous thing is so much more exquisite. I still have struggle staying positive when all the slings and arrows are raining and hailing down, but I am not so attached to outcomes that I suffer needlessly as I pine for life to be what it should be. So what I find, though, overall, is that I am now, 6 years later, it's been a long haul, I am starting to see my way forward, and that is something that I haven't had in a very, very long time, and it feels remarkable. So I want to thank you for joining me here for our little talk. Thanks for sitting down with me and having a little bit of tea with me, or whatever it is that you're drinking or not. I don't know if any of this has been helpful. Maybe I'm saying things in a different way, or using different words, but this is my experience and how I've come to make sense of these things. And so I hope, hope, which is just code for, right, I can still say the words, but really when I say hope, what I mean is it would be nice if maybe something in this discussion today has been helpful, or maybe helped you see the world in a little bit different way that's not quite so bleak. Although it's pretty bleak that I'm asking you to just accept that the world is bleak, and you'll be much more happy that way. At any rate, I am very grateful for your time and attention. Thank you for this, and I hope that you keep it real. I hope that you keep it well beveraged. Keep the joy coming in, and as always, stay wild.